Someone knelt beside a lifeless body and placed flowers into the earth. Nobody knows what they were thinking. Nobody knows what words they spoke. But that single act changed human history forever. For millions of years, our ancestors died like every other animal. Bodies disappeared into rivers. Predators carried them away. The forest reclaimed the bones. Life simply continued. Then something changed. Around 60,000 years ago, humans began treating death differently. Not everywhere. Not all at once. But often enough to leave traces that still survive. Those traces tell a remarkable story. Because flowers do not help the dead. They help the living. Why would hungry hunter-gatherers spend precious time burying someone who could never return the favor? Why carry heavy stones? Why dig into frozen ground? Why decorate a grave? Those choices seem irrational. Until you understand what was happening inside the human mind. Death is easy to recognize. Understanding death is something else entirely. Many animals react when another member of their group dies. Elephants touch old bones with surprising gentleness. Chimpanzees sometimes remain beside dead companions for hours. Crows gather around fallen crows in silent groups. Scientists still debate exactly what these behaviors mean. But none of them consistently build graves. None create cemeteries stretching across generations. None leave symbolic objects beside the body. Humans do. That difference may reveal one of the greatest evolutionary leaps our species ever made. Archaeologists spend their lives searching for clues hidden beneath layers of dirt. Most discoveries are broken tools. Animal bones. Pieces of charcoal. Occasionally something extraordinary appears. A skeleton. Not scattered. Not eaten. Carefully arranged. Hands folded. Legs positioned. Head facing a deliberate direction. Those details matter. Nature does not arrange bodies like that. People do. One of the most famous discoveries came from a cave in northern Iraq. It became known as Shanidar Cave. There, researchers uncovered the remains of several Neanderthals. One skeleton attracted worldwide attention. The archaeologist Ralph Solecki believed he had found pollen surrounding the body. His conclusion was breathtaking. Flowers may have been placed into the grave roughly 60,000 years ago. The discovery captured imaginations across the world. Newspapers called it the flower burial. Suddenly Neanderthals looked different. Perhaps they were compassionate. Perhaps they mourned. Perhaps they loved. For decades, the flower burial became one of archaeology's most famous stories. Then everything became complicated. Later researchers questioned the evidence. Could burrowing rodents have carried pollen underground? Could natural processes explain what looked intentional? The debate continues today. Some scientists remain convinced. Others remain skeptical. That uncertainty is not a weakness. It is how science works. Every extraordinary claim must survive extraordinary scrutiny. Yet something remarkable remains true regardless of the flowers. The bodies were buried intentionally. That fact is much harder to dispute. Intentional burial changes everything. Because digging a grave requires planning. Planning requires cooperation. Cooperation requires shared ideas. Shared ideas require language sophisticated enough to explain invisible concepts. That invisible concept was death itself. Not simply that someone stopped moving, but that they would never move again. Understanding permanence changes the human experience forever. The psychologist Gordon Gallup argued that true awareness of mortality creates a unique psychological burden. If humans understand they must die, they also need ways to cope with that knowledge. Ritual may have become one solution. A burial says something impossible to measure. This person mattered. This life meant something. This story deserves an ending. Those beliefs leave no fossils. Only actions remain. And actions can survive for tens of thousands of years. Every grave becomes a message from minds that disappeared long ago. The message is silent, but it speaks across millennia. Imagine walking across an Ice Age landscape. The air is cold. The wind never truly stops. Mammoths roam distant valleys. Woolly rhinoceroses graze beyond the horizon. Every day is a struggle to survive. Food is uncertain. Winter is unforgiving. Every healthy adult matters. Losing one person weakens the entire group. From a purely practical perspective, spending hours digging a grave makes little sense. Those hours could have been spent hunting, gathering wood, making tools, watching for predators. Yet again and again, ancient people chose the harder path. That choice tells us something extraordinary. Humans are one of the few species willing to sacrifice immediate survival for symbolic meaning. Archaeologists have found graves containing objects that served no practical purpose for the dead. Red ochre, animal teeth, stone tools, shell beads, pieces of antler, carefully shaped ornaments. These objects were valuable. Someone gave them away forever. One striking example comes from the site of Sungir in modern-day Russia. More than 30,000 years ago, two children were buried together. They were surrounded by astonishing wealth. Thousands of ivory beads, fox teeth, finely carved spears. Each bead had been shaped by hand. Researchers estimate that producing them required thousands of hours of work. That investment cannot be explained by survival alone. It reflects belief, respect, memory, perhaps even hope. What kind of society spends months creating gifts for people who will never use them? A society thinking beyond the present, beyond hunger, beyond tomorrow. Burial rituals also strengthen the living. Grief can divide a group. Ritual brings people together. Everyone witnesses the same event. Everyone shares the same loss. Everyone remembers the same person. Modern psychologists have found that rituals help reduce uncertainty and emotional distress. Even simple ceremonial actions can restore a sense of control after tragedy. Ancient humans did not need laboratories to discover that. Experience taught them. Generation after generation. A ritual repeated becomes tradition. Tradition becomes culture. Culture becomes identity. That identity allowed larger communities to survive. Because humans cooperate through shared stories, not shared instincts alone. Every funeral silently answers impossible questions. Who were we? Who was this person? What happens now? Different cultures answered differently. Some believed the dead continued another journey. Others believed ancestors remained close to the living. Some imagined distant spirit worlds. Others focused on preserving memory within the community. The details changed. The need did not. Death demanded meaning. Meaning demanded ritual. And ritual demanded imagination. This may explain why evidence for symbolic behavior appears alongside other signs of expanding human creativity. Cave paintings, personal ornaments, musical instruments, complex tools, all emerged during roughly the same broad period in human history. They were different expressions of the same remarkable ability to imagine things that cannot be seen. A melody cannot be touched. A belief cannot be weighed. A memory cannot be excavated. Yet all three can reshape civilizations. The archaeologist Stephen Mithen has argued that increasingly flexible human cognition allowed different forms of knowledge to blend together. Nature, emotion, art, language, spiritual thought. Instead of existing separately, they became connected. A flower was no longer just a flower. It became a symbol, a farewell, a promise, or perhaps a question. We cannot know exactly what ancient mourners believed, but we know they believed something. And sometimes, that is the most important clue of all. Symbols have a strange kind of power. They exist only because people agree they matter. A painted flag is just cloth. A wedding ring is just metal. A flower is only a plant. Yet humans can risk their lives for all three. That ability separates us from every other known species. The seeds of that ability may have first appeared beside ancient graves. One remarkable discovery comes from the cave of Kafsa in present-day Israel. There, archaeologists uncovered human burials dating back roughly 100,000 years. Several bodies appeared to have been placed carefully into prepared pits. Some were buried with red ochre. One young individual was laid to rest holding deer antlers across the chest. Nobody knows exactly why. The antlers had no practical purpose. They were almost certainly symbolic. That changes the meaning of the burial. It was no longer simply disposal. It was communication. Not with the dead alone. With the living. Every burial teaches the next generation how to remember. Children watch adults mourn. Adults repeat familiar rituals. Stories grow around the ceremony. Eventually, no one remembers who invented the tradition. It simply becomes the way things are done. Anthropologists call this cultural transmission. Ideas survive even after the people who created them disappear. Sometimes those ideas last longer than entire civilizations. Look at flowers today. People still place them on graves. People leave them after disasters. People carry them during funerals. Different cultures choose different flowers. Different colors carry different meanings. But the act itself feels instantly familiar. A simple bouquet says what words often cannot. You mattered. You are remembered. Your absence is real.